Hi, I'm Jeremy, and today I wanted to talk about COVID and what's going on because I don't know. I have an idea. I don't know if it's correct or not because everybody throws in their 2 cents without any kind of information to back it up, and I don't know what's true and what's not. There's conflicting reports with the government, with doctors, you name it. You can find people in that occupation where they say one thing and someone else says just the total opposite. I came across this little clip from Ben Shapiro. It's about 5 minutes long. The title is called Shapiro Reacts to Disturbing Story That's Going Unnoticed. And this is from the YouTube channel called Ben Shapiro, after his name. And this other one from Viva Frei called Alberta Man Fights COVID Fine and Wins, but what does it mean? And this is his vlog. I'll have both these videos in this linked in the description below so that you can watch them in their entirety if you want to. Quebec they've come out and they've said we are going to treat this as a respiratory thing such as the flu and we're done. Really? Then why are we masking up? Or, man, we're not here, but some places are. Why? Because politicians don't care and they don't have to. They can lie and scam their way and there's no repercussions. And it's like, you know what? They should be. And anyone should be able to do it, provided that there's evidence. And, you win your case. It should be a checks and balances with people putting the checks and balancing out the government so that this stuff doesn't happen. I think it's way too hard. I think that you should not be restricted based off of your financial situation. It should be based off of the truth, evidence. And if you've got it, it's like, yeah, then let's get busy. And so if you too are just tired and fed up with all of the lies and the noise and the manipulation that Republicans and Democrats do, every last one of them, then click the like, subscribe button. I've got Patreon and Subscribestar. It would help me out a lot. So let's go ahead and let's listen to this. I'm not going to play all of this, but Ben Shapiro starts off saying how, for some reason, and I talked about this yesterday, that the CDC, the Center for Disease Control, that they're reinstating COVID-19's eviction moratorium. They don't have the power to do this. I said this yesterday, is that only Congress can do this. The CDC cannot pass laws. That is not what they do. They're a research institution. They look at numbers and facts and they conduct tests. That's what they do. It's not this at all. And Biden is here saying, oh, this is what they're doing, and he supports this move. No, that's illegal. No one should be above the law. Absolutely nobody. Even the president. It's like he should be arrested for breaking the law. And he's absolutely doing that. Because you know what? For the rest of us, we're not politicians. It's like if we said something like that, it's like, okay, well, congratulations, you don't know everything. Big whoop-de-doo. But whenever it's your job, it's like if you went to the hospital and you needed surgery and they didn't know their job and they botched up the surgery, then you get to sue and you get to press charges on them. And this happens everywhere with every other job. That if you don't know your job, if you don't do your job, then they can whoever you screwed over, whoever got screwed over, they can press charges. They can take you to court. They can fine you. You can even go to prison. It's like if somebody is saying that I'm a doctor and they do a surgery, that's fraud, they will go to prison. If you can go online and you can buy everything so that you can look just like a cop. You can buy all the equipment that they have inside their police vehicle. You can paint it up to look like a cop car. You can buy the flashing lights. You can buy the uniform. You can even get the badges, the gun, and the belt that those cops wear that have the handcuffs and the pepper spray. I made a video about that. I made a video about all of these people who were impersonating officers. And you know what? It's illegal. You can't do that. You get thrown in jail for doing that. You cannot go around faking tickets and putting people in cuffs and detaining them or any of that. It is illegal. And it's like, and it's good. It should be. I don't want someone out there who's lying to go do that to me or to anyone. Because if they're doing it to one person, then why not two or three? And if they did it to that person, why wouldn't they do it to me too? Screw that nonsense. Why do politicians get a pass with this? It's like, no. You cannot say that Biden does not know, because the entire White House, that is his place. The Senate and the House of Representatives, they have theirs. Every capital has their seat of power with their elected officials, and they are surrounded with their aides. And they have all of these people to help them out to do it. It is exactly what the presidential cabinet is. Secretary of Defense, Secretary of Transportation, all of those people. They are there to advise the president. There are definitely people there to advise him on the law and his job. So why is he not in trouble for saying these lies? Because we don't do it. Part of me likes some of these people like Ben Shapiro and Tim Pool, but what I don't like is that they don't want to do anything. They want to just come on here, they just want to talk about it, and then talk about the next story. I don't. I want an end to this. I'm tired of this. It's like, there's so many more things that I would rather be doing than this. I really hate doing this. I mean, even though I see a lot of things that can be construed as positive that happen from this, I mean, even if this is a fraction of what I want it to be, it's like, it can be a good job and I'll make good money doing all of this, and I don't care. I'm in my mid-40s. I've never been rich by any stretch of the imagination. I'm not a millionaire, and I don't care. I just do not care at all. I mean, if it happens, it's like, I'm not stupid. I'm not going to turn away from it or anything like that. But it's not going to be the end of me if it never happens. It's like, didn't happen for any of my friends and family. Well, I guess I've known some people who are kind of well off, and it's just that have been pretty successful. And it's few. And I just don't care. I've just known a ton of people who have just had really good lives, a lot of fun times, good memories and all that stuff, and didn't need all that materialistic crap and just all that garbage associated with it. I just really like good people more than good materialistic crap, hands down. So, and you know, if these are bad people, you know, that want to go into politics and lie, and they can do it because what's going to happen to them? Now, Trump was, I believe, if I remember correct, is the one who started this eviction moratorium, and he shouldn't have done it. You know, CDC extends Trump's error policy that allows migrants to be expelled over COVID concerns. Well, at least it was Trump instead of the CDC that put it there in the first place. But the CDC has no power to extend this at all. The CDC and everyone there who's in some kind of position of authority, anyone who's in the CDC who's saying, yeah, this is what the CDC should do, and we're going to do this, fired, every last one of them, taken to court, every last one of them. And then whenever they lose, all the money that it costs to go to court comes out of their pockets. It should be civilians should be allowed to go and do this, and whenever you win, then you get reimbursed all of your money from lost wages and all this stuff, and it should come from these people's pockets. And if it makes them broke, it's like, I don't care. It's like, you should learn to shut your mouth. You should learn your damn job, just like everyone else. And so he talks about how the CDC doesn't have any of these powers, and even that later, Biden says that this isn't something that's probably going to hold up in the courts, and it was the same thing that I found yesterday because it's all nonsense. It's like it can't. Well, maybe I didn't find out that part, but I knew it was. It's like, yeah, the Supreme Court's not going to hold up to this. And you know what? It should be a race. People should be racing to be like, I want to file first because I want that money. I want to be the first one to file on it right here, right now. Get me over there. I want to put together all of this evidence and that they're overstepping their bounds. I want them all fired, and I want to take their money, and we can line up our pockets for a change. It's like, yep, absolutely. Then it'd make all of these people think twice and make sure that they dotted all their I's and crossed their T's and that everything's in line before they make these outrageous statements with all this stuff. And then he talks about how San Francisco and these other places, they're going to start masking up again. And then he says something that I had not heard. So it's here a little at the end, so I'm going to jump over to it. So here we go. At time 3 minutes and 22 seconds into this clip. Oh, I had not heard this. But we're going to have him say it and then...
And so, I really wonder, if there's so many Americans who apparently are just willing to give up their freedom on the basis of pretty much nothing. Nothing. The entire population...
Of nothing? Really? What do you mean? What do you mean, Mr. Shapiro?
In San Francisco, apparently, is going to go along with masking up despite a 7-day running death average of 0.
What? I'm sorry. Say that again, would you?
Willing to give up their freedom on the basis of pretty much nothing. Nothing. The entire population of San Francisco, apparently, is going to go along with masking up despite a 7-day running death average of 0.
They're going to all mask up over COVID when there are 0 deaths from COVID over the past 7 days. Something that I talked about before was that all of these places, they want to talk about the new cases. It's like, I don't care about the cases. How many people are dying? 0? 0? Okay, so I'm curious. What does this mean? Well, first off, the population of San Francisco in 2019, so it might be a little bit higher today, but it's roughly still going to be 881,000 people. And there's been 0 deaths? Is this true? Well, here, this is sanfrancisco.gov, and this is the data that they have with their COVID-19 cases and deaths. I found cases. I had to click and click and click and click because it was cases and death. Clicked on it and it would show cases, but you had to click again to get to more cases and death because it would show you something else. So here, I'll just back up. I finally got to it, but it had to show me this first, and there was something else. There was another one that I had to click to before I got to this. It was probably a separate window. It opened this new one up, and it's like, really? Why? It's like, I know why. And then it starts off by showing you the average new cases per day. It's what they always want to show first, if they're even going to show the deaths at all. So you have to scroll down to get to the deaths. And so COVID-19 deaths are shown below. Deaths are shown on the date the individual died. Okay, deaths by month over time. So in January, it's like, it's not a large number because of the base number. The base number is the population of 880,000 people. 163. It's not a grain. It's not even one grain of sand. It's absolutely nothing with the population that's nearing 1 million. It's nothing. Now, if the population was like 1,000, it's like, that would be pretty damn scary. But it's nowhere near that. This isn't even 0.0001 of a percentage. It's how freaking small this is. I mean, we'll round it up. We'll say with all of these numbers put together, we'll say 500 people over this course here. It looks like it's roughly a year. We're going to just say 500 people. With 1 million? Roughly 1 million? It's not even a fraction of 1%. It's stupid. But here we go. May. 5. And then what is this? Is it divided up into 2-week segments here? July. 7. Holy crap. You know what? You could say with one more, that would put it at 8. And with the population, we'll say maybe a lot of people have left San Francisco because of 2019 and the lockdowns and all this, and that it's at 800,000. That means one person out of 100,000 people, one person out of 100,000 people died. But it's not even that high, because it's, according to this, they're almost at 900,000, and it was 7 who died, not 8. Because politicians can say and do whatever they want, and so what? What are you going to do with this information? Who do you take to court, and how much money are you going to have to do it? Now, I go back and forth with this a little bit. I'm really not interested in politics at all. But if for some reason, if I did, I know that one of the first things that I would absolutely try to do is I'm going to put in laws against politicians. Screw putting in laws against people. I'm tired of laws against people. I'm going to put in laws against those scummy, scoundrel, scamming pieces of trash. Have them get sued into oblivion. Have them lose every last cent to their name. Have it where they can never run for government again. Have it where they can be thrown in prison. And you know what it's going to be? It's going to be no different than it is for everyone else. That's what we all have to deal with. Guess what? Your turn too. But you know, the problem with that is that it's not something that you can do yourself. It's something that you would have to be able to talk everyone into. And so how are you going to talk other politicians into kind of basically committing suicide and saying, oh yeah, hey, I would love having more restrictions against me. So that's why it's pretty much, yeah, I'm going to deal with it through this website. So it would be better to have the laws perhaps, but the website the grand website that I'll build, because I'll build kind of a simpler little thing at first. It's going to help a lot. But until then. And then we have this video from Viva Frei. And again, I'll have the links in the description below for both of these.
From an interview that is on Rumble. It's from something called The Stoop.
Yeah, so I'm going to go ahead and skip ahead a little bit here. But basically, there was an interview about a man who supposedly won against Canada, I think in Quebec there. And he clarifies it. It's like, no, that's not what happened. So, he does show that they're running a scam. I used to work for DirecTV as a technician, and one of the things that I found was that people would have their bills jacked up out of nowhere for no reason, no notification whatsoever, and I gave it a nickname, and that was phishing. And it's because there were plenty of people who did not know, who did not care, that they had plenty of money, and they just had it automatically withdrawn from their account, and they never checked on it. But there were some people who did. And those people, they would argue about it. They'd call them up, and they would ask me about it, and get pissy at me. It's like, I have absolutely nothing to do with billing at all whatsoever. I'm just a technician. I just work on the equipment. But you should go ahead and call them up. And I would tell them, find the angriest person that you know, lie, and say that that person's you, and have them go to town. Because they will give you stuff. They will give you a free upgrade for your box. They will give you free movie channels like HBO or Cinemax or whatever for like 6 months. Now, you do have to remember to cancel it, though, or they'll automatically start billing you. But you can get it free. You can get the sports channel free for 6 months or a year. Just depends on what your certain situation is. And they would do it because, hey, they're getting free money, because there are plenty of people who do not care. And that's what I thought of whenever he talked about this. So in this video, he talks about how the police in Canada, that they will go out there and they will write these tickets and they will fine these people. And that you can go to court and they will just drop it. They won't fight it. It's not worth it. And that some of these things are really kind of illegal. And he talks about COVID, how they're writing up these tickets for people who aren't obeying some of these mandates, which they never went through the proper channels, and they're illegal, so they can't go anywhere. But there are people out there, for whatever reasons, they just go along with it, and they'll just pay it. And so it sounded like phishing to me. It's like, oh, we're just going to write out a whole bunch of tickets. And if you don't pay or whatever, and you take it to court, yeah, we'll go ahead and drop it, but we'll take everybody else's money. It's like, really? Why aren't every last one of them arrested? They are breaking the law. They are, they are scamming people out of their money. They have no legal rights to do this whatsoever. It's like officers should not be above the law. I made a video about that, where there were these federal agents who were taking illegal immigrants at the border and loading them up and bringing them into the U.S. And it's like, well, why doesn't Texas use their law officers to arrest these federal officers? They're breaking the law. These federal officers are engaged in human trafficking. If you went and you did that, if you took these illegal people and you just drove a van up to the gate like they did and you started loading them up, you would be arrested. Why aren't they? It's like, if they drove up there and instead of loading them up into a van and they had them cross the gate into the U.S. and then they started shooting, they'd be arrested then. Or if it was, instead of smuggling people, if they just started loading up guns or drugs, they'd be arrested then too. I don't care what the law is. The law is the law. Why aren't they being arrested? So let me skip ahead and find this particular segment. All right, I think this will be a good place to start.
Here, Alberta, people are sharing this around as though it is the incontrovertible proof that COVID was a hoax.
So he's referring to this interview that happened between these two people. I don't know then if it's a news thing or a YouTube channel, and brings this guy on to talk about how he kind of won or whatever.
Alberta is lifting all of its COVID measures, that it basically is admitting that it never had any evidence of the existence of COVID, so on and so forth. But
And it's like, well, no, I think COVID is absolutely real, but I don't think it's anywhere near what they say at all. I think it's something more akin to the cold or flu. I mean, yeah, a little worse with the fatalities with it, but from my understanding, from what I know, is that it's really only affecting the old and people who are in poor health. And it's like, that's not a surprise. You mean to tell me that elderly people are more vulnerable to sickness and diseases? It's like, duh. You're trying to tell me that people who are unhealthy, that they have poor diets and that they don't exercise, that they're at more risk from getting complications from diseases? Thanks a lot there, Captain Obvious. Couldn't have figured that one out with you. Anyways, this is the interview right here, Peter's show or whatever. And you see a little bit about it, and then this gentleman here in the red hat, I don't know what his name is. I don't care. But apparently he was protesting for a while with some other stuff, and then COVID hit, and he continued to protest, and he took it to court, and all of this, kind of went down. He did the court order wrong, where some documentation was supposed to be presented from the government to the court, and instead of going to the judge to get it signed off, he went to the justice of the peace. And so because he did that wrong, because he was told wrong, that he didn't get it because they didn't have to. And so it's a bunch of misinformation. It wasn't intentional. This guy's not a politician. He doesn't know how to do this. So it's kind of like, give him a little bit of leeway maybe, but at the same time, he's protesting all the time. And it's like, well, I don't care about anybody out there just throwing their signs up. It's like, do you have a plan? Or are you taking any kind of actions? It's like, get up and go do something that's going to make a change. I just the other day, it was either like maybe this morning or yesterday, there was something about awareness. Oh, I was driving around and there was a car that on their back window had in lettering, suicide awareness. Call this number. It's like, I don't care about awareness. It's, you know what awareness is? It's a buzzword. It's like, I don't care. Do you have a plan? Okay, well then, where's your proof? Don't tell me this. It's just like with all these charity organizations, these non-profit charity organizations. Man, they line their pockets for all of their staff and their employees, and then they don't do anything themselves. That all this money that they collected that they're supposed to be using to help doesn't do anything. They spend a small fraction of it. I've heard this forever. And it's something I remember being a little kid in I don't know when it was, in the 70s or the 80s. It's got to be like the 80s. And there were some really famous people, and they were all dressed up, and it was on TV, and they were singing all this stuff, and they raised all this money, and then a little while later, they got caught where they used absolutely none of the money for anything besides putting it in their pocket. And it was like, what did you change to keep this from happening again? This is the exact same kind of thing with, oh, well, we should have a peaceful divorce, and the United States should split. It's like, that will do absolutely nothing. Nothing will change. You know why? Because you haven't addressed the problem. And what's the problem? Is that you have two different lines of thought. And it's like, well, with a lot of this stuff, we know the answers. But we do this little circle. We're just chasing our tails, going around in a circle, and absolutely nothing has happened. You have to hit the root of the problem, and that is these talking points, these arguments, these debates or whatever. It's like, we know this stuff. The data's out, and it's been out. But politicians keep ignoring it because if they actually didn't ignore it, a lot of them would be out of the job. And then what are they going to do? And they wouldn't be able to line their pockets. Even if they did have the job, it'd be much harder. It's like, well, how else are people supposed to be getting rich, off of the backs of others if there's not politics and all this nonsense going on? Screw those people. Every last one of those politicians. Because I do not ever hear of politicians who come up with real plans to change this. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe there's a couple of them hiding it underneath a rock somewhere. But I don't hear it. I just don't. And it frustrates me because I see this stuff and it's like, you know what? I can think a few things off of the top of my head. It's like, wait until I get going with this. I'll tell you what, man. Anyways, and he talks about this and he shows clips of the interview a little bit. I'm not going to watch the interview. I don't care. But at the end here, and I'll find this and play this a little bit. And this is real good. He talks about how some of this story is a lie and some of it is true. And I like that. Don't just listen to one source with anything. Listen to several sources. Take them all with a grain of salt. But that's going to be a really good way for you to get a clearer picture of what's going on. You know why? Because I don't have all the answers. Neither does this guy, or Tim Pool, or Ben Shapiro, or Sticks and Hammer, or whoever it is that you watch. Nobody can just know it all. So if you want to get the best picture possible, look at several different sources and see, kind of what keeps happening, what's constantly being said, see what kind of patterns that you can see, and make up your own mind. It's okay. So we're going to listen to kind of his summary right here.
Some of what is being said and described in the story is true. Alberta is lifting the measures. Dina Hinshaw is now publicly stating that they're going to treat COVID more like any other respiratory illness. The Crown dropped the charge against this guy.
It's all gone. In Alberta, it's all gone, or Quebec, whichever one of the two. All gone. No more. No more masking. No more telling people they have to go get the vaccine. Just nothing. It's just all gone. They're treating it like a respiratory thing, like the cold or the flu. I mean, they're still going to offer the vaccine because they do the same thing with the cold and flu. You can go get your flu shot or whatever. It's like, okay, well, if you want to, go ahead. I've never done it. And it's because I know people who get it all the time, and then they still get it. Because there's thousands of different variants of it out there. They try to predict which one is going to sweep across the land, and they give everyone it. And you know what happens? They miss. It's the wrong one. And so I just see these people getting sick twice. Because whenever you get the shot for the flu, they're actually giving you the flu. But it's a small little dose. So you get sick. Yeah, not very bad. It's a small little bit, and your body recovers real quickly, but you still get sick. And then you get it again a second time because the real variant comes along, and that's the one that wipes you out. Maybe someday they'll get it down better, or maybe that as soon as they offer it, you shouldn't take it, and you should wait a little while and give it a chance to kind of spread, because maybe they change it. If they did something like that, maybe that would be a little bit better. So I don't know. And that was a while ago whenever I heard all this, so I don't know what it is currently today. So we'll let him continue.
And they might have said in the court that they don't have the information, they don't have the documents requested in the subpoena, whether or not that's because they didn't bring it because they didn't have to, or it's an admission that they never had it in the first place. That is where we cross the line from what...
Yeah, so he's talking about this interview again, and that there's several reasons for all this to be explained, and he's giving his perspective as a lawyer, and he's like, no, this stuff happens all the time. There are too many laymen out there who are just casting their opinions about this, and it's completely wrong. It's like they don't mean anything by it, but they don't know what they're talking about, and it's an honest mistake.
The evidence shows to what some people might say the evidence says, even though it might not say quite that. So that is the breakdown. I hope it will allow people...
Yeah, so, I mean, if you want to know the rest of it, just click on the link below and watch it.
to understand what is going on in that story. It is very interesting. Alberta's not the only province to be lifting the measures. I'm in New Brunswick right now. New Brunswick has lifted the measures. There's no more face masks indoors. There's no more checkpoint at the border, from what I'm told. But that does not mean that I'm any less.
Oh yeah, he made a video about that where they could not cross provinces without having COVID vaccinations and paperwork and all this stuff, and it was like ridiculous. Supposedly it wasn't up too long, but it was like, and he was like, this is illegal. They can't be doing this. And then not too long after that, he announced that he was actually going to run and become a politician. So it's like, I don't care. You know, are you actually going to do anything? Do you have plans to make things actually better? That instead of just more authoritarian stuff about telling other people what to do? Because it seems abundantly clear to me in my eyes that the problem is this unlimited power, it seems like, that politicians have. It's like they need restrictions, lots of them, and hard ones.
Angry about the checkpoint that I had to go through to get here, but a number of the provinces are lifting the measures. Yes, it is probably because of some political pressure. It's also probably because...
That's so wrong. Because of political pressure? You know why I want... You know, if you can tell me that, yeah, you know what, there are a lot of deaths, not cases, a lot of deaths, it's like, man, I'll mask up. I wore a mask once, and then I told everyone else to go jump off a bridge because I just saw absolutely nothing supporting this kind of ravenous death going across all over the place. It's like, yeah, some people are dying, but it's very, very, very few. You need to know the content in which you're dealing with. And it's like you're talking about the whole world that has roughly 8 billion people, and you're talking about, I looked up the other day, it's like it's a little over 4 million people. It's like, that's nothing. That's nothing. I was telling people, you know what? If these bums on the street that are out all over the place, that they're living outside, they're not eating well, they have all of these medical issues, they're on drugs, they're alcoholics, they're smoking. If they're fine, there's no way in hell I'm going to worry about this. You want to? Go ahead. Wrap yourself up in some kind of plastic bubble suit and put a ventilator on. Put in an oxygen tank in there and strap it to your back. Don't know, don't care, go ahead. I'm not going to tell you what to do, but you're not going to tell me what to do either. It's like I will decide for myself what it is that I want to do. If I want to go skydiving, then so be it. You have no business telling anybody not to do that. You want to go rock climbing, it's like let them go do it. If they want to do it free form without any kind of ropes and they want to do it by hand, it's like, well, that's their decision. If that, it's their life.
Because of vaccination status, it's also probably...
So it should have been, instead of pressure from politics, it should have been pressure from the truth. It's like, well, what does the truth say? What is the evidence? Oh, the truth is that San Francisco, 1 in over 100,000 people are dying from this. I mean, even all together with like 500 people, you know, even if it was 1,000, it's nothing. I live in a place, you know, it's not small, it's not large. There's roughly 200,000 people here. That means 2 people. There's a ton of people who live in this city that I have never met before. I will never meet. It's just, I will never be able to meet 200,000 people personally. Why aren't these politicians being fired, arrested, fined, thrown out of office? They did this. They created this lockdown nonsense. They created this eviction moratorium thing. They did all of this. They had no plans for getting out of it, and it was all based off of, it looks like a bunch of lies and nonsense. Because they said all these deaths are happening, and they set up all of these medical shelters with these tents, and they brought in that medical ship, and they didn't use any of it. That ship just sat in the harbor over there in New York, and it didn't get used. You saw pictures of these little medical centers that were just tents and cots all over the place, weren't getting used. There was a few of them who had a few lines of a dozen people or something like that, you know, and it was set up for like hundreds or thousands depending on where you were, and it's like, what? I have a tenant I can't say that. I'm not going to say all that. But scams, and they got away with it. So if you too think that politicians need to be held in check, that you would like a bigger perspective of what's going on because you are not a Republican or a Democrat, because you are a follower of truth. You are a warrior and someone who believes in facts and evidence instead of these people's feelings, that you want to know what's real, what's right, what's true, then hit that like button, give it a thumbs up, subscribe, and become a member. And together we will fight for the truth. Hope you've enjoyed. See you again later. Bye.